Okay, here we are again. Hi, I'm Dr. C, your work doctor, and this is the Achieve with Dr. C broadcast. How are you um, today? We're really dealing with a lot technology wise, just the layoffs, the hurricane in Jamaica. There's so much going on. And today, what we're going to deal with, you guys, is self awareness, the mirror you can't avoid. Now, I want to start off and make my attorney happy by telling you this isn't therapy. This is not meant to replace any type of therapy you're receiving or counseling you're receiving. This is just my personal opinion, my educated personal opinion. Thanks, sis. And it's meant to give you tools and maybe introduce concepts, but definitely not to give you therapy. So, that said, what we're talking about today is we're getting into something that's deeper than a motivational soundbite. We're talking about self awareness, and it's a mirror you cannot avoid. And it's part of the reason why we're having some of the issues that we have in society right now. I won't go into it. But have you ever noticed it's easier to scroll through everyone else's life than to sit with your own? And I don't care how many times people tell me, oh, I'm not bothered by other people. I focus on myself. That would show up in different behaviors. Yeah, self awareness, you guys, it's a mirror you cannot avoid. And it's usually not trending because usually when I start teaching self awareness, self efficacy, accountability, focus on you, you can't control anything else, people tune that out because again, it's easier to focus on someone else and point fingers at someone else instead of dealing with yourself. And that's what self awareness is. So let's get into it. If you don't know you, every version of you that shows up in the world is just a guess. It's just survival. It's just making do. It's just trying something on for size. When you don't know who you are and you don't know how you want to show up in life, you're guessing and you're treading your way through. Drop a eyeball in the chat if you know what I mean. If you've caught yourself performing a version of you, a role that didn't even feel like you anymore. You can put something in the chat, even in the replay. If you're watching the replay, do that. If you've ever caught yourself in a situation, in a circumstance with a group of people, and that you that was there didn't feel like you at all, it was a performance. Yeah, Michelle, yeah, that's it's happened more often than I want to admit, but I'm going to teach you what I do to return back to being myself. When I say I'm not talking about your LinkedIn self, I'm not talking about your church self, I'm not talking about your this sister self or this family member self or this work person self. I do understand the fact that identity depends on what role you're in. Like, I can't be Cece at work, I have to be Dr. Carr. I can be friendly, but I can't be friends with people at work unless I take them on one because I've looked at their character, I've looked at them. So when I say I'm not talking about the image you have to put out in the world, I want to tell you yourself has layers. We have hats, we have layers, we have depth, we have surface, we have in between. There's an actual self, the you are when nobody's around. It's just you and Yah. There's that self. There's your idea self. That's the person you want to be, how you want to show up, how you desire to be for the rest of your life or in this moment in life. And then there's your social self. Say that fast. Social self, who you think you're supposed to be. And I'll touch back on this a little later, but social media has tossed most of us into we don't know our actual self. And we're busy competing with social selves. Those people who have the perfect image, the perfect life, the perfect body, they have the perfect daily routine. And let me tell you guys this, I know I've said this before in other broadcasts. Nobody is all one way all the time, not even you. So, those are your three different identities. So, here's the real work for us all, it's learning to tell which version of you walked in the room and walked into that situation and being honest about who that is. Being honest means what I call brutal self awareness. It's being as aware of your challenges, outright weaknesses, we all have them, and your strengths, which we tend to shrink our strengths when we're being our social self because we want to fit in. We want to be accepted. We want people to acknowledge that image of us that is acceptable to everyone. And there's nothing wrong with it, but I do want you to know you can spend a disproportionate amount of time because of the leading of social media and being very visual as a society and AI and all the things we have going on to where you really don't know the you that's in the room. You've put on this role so long, you can't even sit with yourself. Because to tap back and go into who you are is excruciating for some of us. Or we don't have the appropriate self love and self efficacy and self advocacy that we silence ourselves and we shrink ourselves so we're acceptable, or like someone told me a few days ago, we're tolerated, which I go with the love is, you guys. I don't want to be tolerated. So let me throw this over the fence to you as we talk about how we show up being authentic and self aware. And self awareness will start with you in silence. Catch that. When's the last time you've been alone with your own thoughts, your own opinions, and just quieted everything around you, even if it's for 5 minutes. I love to sit in my car. That's I get my best stuff in my car by myself. I do. That's like I call it the car ministry, not just my last name, but the vehicle ministry, because I catch stuff because I'm silent. I don't like music playing. I'll sometimes listen to music. Most of the time, I'm listening to the teaching tape or something. I'm saying tape, girl, showing your age for real. But I'm listening to something that's expanding my mind. So when self awareness starts in silence, it's not the light a candle and hum kind of silence that I'm talking about. I'm talking about raw, unfiltered moments when you stop mid reaction, you stop activity, and ask yourself questions. Some of those questions could be reflection on something that happened to you, and you can ask yourself, why did that hit me so hard? What story am I telling myself about this situation? What's really going on in here and here for you? Don't screen it through your husband. Don't screen it through your boyfriend, girlfriend. Don't screen it through your boss. Don't screen it through a church or a pastor, God forbid. If your pastor can come into your personal thoughts, it should be the word that does that. But anyway, what story are you telling yourself? And why did that hit you so hard? Great questions to ask yourself for self awareness. Because if you're brutally honest with yourself, the less drama you will attract, the less chaotic situations you'll find yourself putting yourself in. You'll get off a treadmill of drama. And we need to do that, you guys. Some of our situations and circumstances in life we have because of our boundaries being broken, our self awareness being violated, and our ability to self advocate, to show up for yourself, is quieted by your need to show up for others. So if you've been here, you know that drama and chaos feeds on itself. When you show up and you're not self aware and you can't bring who you want to be in that situation or moment, you'll fall into default behaviors. For instance, when I'm around family, I've learned they still see me as whoever they stuck me in their mind as. No matter what's happened all along the way, I'm still who they believed I am. And when I come into those situations, they may say things to me. They may push buttons voluntarily or involuntarily. And I will default back to that person that they've called up in that circumstance without my self awareness, without knowing, nope, not going to go there, not going to push that button, calm myself, go back to who I want to be, not who they're pushing me to show up like. Let's talk about energy and those emotions. Emotions are not your enemy, people. Emotions are meant to be there. If you find yourself not feeling or turning your dial down on your emotions, you're creating dysfunction. Something is supposed to make you angry. It's your behavior after that emotion or that feeling because there's emotions, there's feelings. Won't go into that. You can feel free to go back in my broadcast. I did a very thorough teaching about emotions and feelings. Emotions, we have core things in our cerebral and in our behaviors that are emotion driven. And emotions are not your enemy. Some things should make you angry. Some things should make you cry and laugh. You don't have to be flat and false and fake. And we'll get to those questions that we can ask ourselves. I did say earlier, it's good to ask yourself, why is this hitting me so hard? That helps you identify the button that's being pushed in that situation. The other one is, what story am I telling myself in this situation? It's interrupting thought loops and default behaviors in your mind. And the people like to call them core beliefs. And, I don't like those psychobabble terms. It's just how you're thinking. What is that situation calling up in you? Those are two great questions, two really great questions. So let's go back to emotions, because when you ask yourself those questions, let yourself feel those emotions. Is this making me, why'd that hit me so hard? That made me really angry. Identify your emotions. As I said, you're supposed to feel. You're not supposed to, oh, that didn't bother me. All this tough stuff we pretend like. And yes, men have emotions too. They just demonstrate them differently. Men are socialized to play games. So with men, when you throw them to their emotions, they will strategize and they will play games. It's just how they are. And I don't know why women want to disagree with that. It's the truth. Women are socialized to nurture and relationship, and that's why we'll fight for a relationship. Men are trained and socialized to compete and to strategize. Games. That's why boys play. And girls, we interact. When we're girls, we want to play by playing dolls or house, and we still do it. Even though we don't see it in the media, we have these hypersexualized little girls, too grown. But I digress. Let me get back to emotions. They're not your enemies, and they're absolutely not weaknesses. It's not a weakness to feel emotional. It's not a weakness to care. Yes, it is talked about in the word, in the Torah. Yes, absolutely. So we can be angry, we just can't sin. And sin, when you don't have self awareness, is what follows an emotion you don't call out. You don't know who you are, you don't know what you're feeling. So emotions should be data. When you ask that question, why did that hit me so hard? What story am I telling myself? That made me angry. That's my answer. Or that made me very sad and sorrowful. When I find those emotions, I treat them as data. Okay, anger. It's a primary emotion. It's supposed to be there. So use it as data. In this anger, first of all, how do I want to show up? Do you want to act a fool and possibly go to jail? Or are you going to control yourself? And are you going to let that emotion be what it is? Don't try to stuff it, eat it, drink it, sex it, buy it. Let yourself express it in the way you want to show up. Like, don't cuss people out. I do sometimes. I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes people push my buttons, but these days it's not safe. And as a person who owns weapons, I have learned when I'm angry, the best thing for me is avoidance. Just, had somebody posting some crazy stuff to me today and then came in my inbox. I can't respond to that stuff. I'd be doing that all day long. So it's data. Your emotions tell you what matters to you. That's why you can't suppress them. That's why if you ignore your emotions, that's how you end up lacking self awareness. It tells you what's mattering to you in this situation and what's important to you. So when you find in yourself, it's giving you data, it's telling you something you should be aware of about you. It can also help you find, to the question that was asked earlier, questions you can ask yourself. It can show you what's unhealed, what you're not dealing with, or what you're suppressing, or what you need to get counseling and therapy for, especially if everything makes you feel one note, emotional. You should have a plethora of feelings and emotions. Again, listen to your emotions. They're data. They give you good self awareness. They help you understand yourself better. When you can say, that hit me hard because that type of situation makes me angry. I don't like that kind of situation. I don't like being talked to like that. I don't feel good when I am in this type of situation. So, when you understand your emotions, you stop being run by them. You stop defaulting to behaviors by them. You start being guided by them. Emotions are data, and they can guide you to who you want to be. Remember, that's a core part of self awareness. Who am I? Who do I want to be in this particular situation, or just your core person? Knowing who you are and how you want to show up in the world. People that don't do this kind of understanding of self, they're pushed to and fro in life. And there will come a moment when you question your mortality. Trust me. And in those moments, it feels so good to be able to say to yourself, this is who I am. This is how I behave. I don't care what the rest of them are doing. This is me. And you also avoid some mental illness, dysfunction. Remember, I talked about that. So, appreciating your strengths, your emotions, appreciating how you've decided you want to show up in the world. You guys, don't let the world tell you that's arrogance or it's selfish. It isn't. It's wisdom. It's wisdom to be able to control yourself, to talk a certain way, to have manners. I don't know when we got to this point in life where, no, I do, reality TV. Because I don't have a friend on this earth that can toss a drink in my face. And it's mostly because, yeah, that stuff's sensationalized, but then it's translated into society where people think that stuff is cute. That's not cute. That's not how I want to be treated. And that's not how anybody should want to be in society. So back to emotions as data, back to them telling you what matters to you, back to it showing you what's unhealed or what you might need to protect, redirect, or how you want to show up, giving you that data for self awareness. I want to ask you not to judge your emotions at first. You can hear people teaching when they teach about self awareness, especially in therapy. We can tell you um, to take an emotion and dissect it, find out where the root of that emotion came from, especially if you notice everything makes you angry, or whatever situation you're in, you feel sorrow, or any situation you're in, you feel awkward, or whatever the emotion might be. When you have some ability to question yourself, to know yourself and go, hey, the story I told myself is this always happens to me, or people always treat me like this, or this is always this way this person is. And I let them pull me again, push my button, and I default to a behavior that's I know my emotions have shown me I don't feel good afterwards when I act a fool or when I cuss somebody out. It's not worth the drama. I always say this to people. Sometimes the discipline after something happens is not worth the desire that you had in the moment. The discipline that's going to come, like I said, being a gun owner, carrying guns, I have to learn how to control myself and understand Cheryl gets angry when certain things happen. So Cheryl has to be able to listen when something's making me angry and know what my behavior has to be in that situation for me. I can't call it for somebody else. I can only call it for me. Hope this is making sense because I would love if you guys would comment one emotion you feel like is showing up for you as you're hearing this. Is there a certain emotion that keeps showing up for you over and over again? And are you interested in finding out how not to fight it, but how to be self aware and experience it? I'll start. For me, right now, I'm experiencing a lot of sadness. I see what's going on in the world. I'm seeing how people are treating one another, all the things we won't, we'll just touch on it, what's going on with the government. And it makes me sad. And I've begun to ask myself, what story am I telling myself? Worry. Yeah. Yeah. I think that might be part of my sadness because I'm like, how are we going to survive this? How are we going to keep going down this road? So here's the truth. When we have self awareness, when we have emotions that aren't who we want to be, or it may be exactly who we want to be, like my sadness is because I'm human. I care about other people. I'm not only concerned with myself. That's self awareness to know I want to be a good human. I want to treat people well. I want to show up for people who need me without thinking what's coming back to me. I want to help people. I have my boundaries, but I want to be that kind of person. I don't want to be a person who doesn't care about anybody, my four and no more. So I'm telling myself that I'm self aware enough to know the type of person I want to be. And I give myself grace. I know my kindness towards myself, helping me identify what I'm feeling, helping me control my behaviors, makes it okay to have that emotion. It's not throwing me into depression. It's not making me overeat, oversleep, do any of those things because I've identified it. I've given myself grace. I'm aware that's who I am. And I just let it go. If that hits you, will you put something in the comment about how that feels for you to hear this? And is this making sense? Is this making sense for you? Is this helping? Yes, giving yourself grace is hard. And I will tell you, it's because the reason why it's hard to give yourself grace is because of the story you're telling yourself about being kind to yourself. If there's a loop, there's somewhere in there. Remember, I said earlier, giving yourself grace isn't being selfish. It isn't being more concerned about you than someone else. It's just being able to show up how you want to show up in the world. And I'm serious. Having self awareness helps you avoid dysfunction, becoming a person who has no human. You know, you're just shut off from your emotions. You don't care about anybody else. You only care about yourself. And no, it's not narcissism. We all have a touch of narcissism. But the truth is, most of us suffer from a lack of self awareness. And that's why I'm bringing this up. And that's why I'm introducing these things. So, if you want to be an effective leader, if you want to be an effective parent, if you want to be an effective partner, I want you to know those type of people, that type of self-awareness has one thing in common. They knew what energy or emotion they bring in the room, in the situation, in the circumstance. They're self-aware. They're not putting on an act. Remember, we got our three selves, our actual self. And I spend a lot of time trying to be my actual self no matter what room I'm in. Now, I might have to have separate behaviors because I can't kick back and be comfy at work like I can with my friends. But growth lives when you realize what I just said to you. You can have greater self awareness. And this is my major point for this talk today. When you know who you are, the energy you bring in any room, any situation, any circumstance, because you spend some time identifying how you want to show up, who you want to be, how you want to act for you. And when you do that, the chains can't be pulled, the buttons can't be pushed. You stay in your lane. You stay in who you are or who you want to be. Because even if you're seething inside, if you decide you're not going to swing and throw these hands in a situation, which anger can make you feel that way, that's a power. Self awareness is a power. I won't even call it a superpower because I believe there's so many superpowers. But here's the goal, it's not to just find yourself with the things that I've said to date up to this point. That's not the major goal. It's to face yourself with honesty, humor, compassion, and yes, grace. I hope this makes you think a little deeper. I hope the two questions I gave you help you. I hope you can look at your I'll give you the three again. I want to make sure I say them exactly how I said them. Your actual self, That's who you are when nobody's watching, which is who I want to be, even whatever circumstance I'm in. Then there's your social self. That's who you are when you're in society, and it's who you think you're supposed to be for the role you're in. And then there's your ideal self. And your ideal self, you guys, being aware of your ideal self will help you grow. It will help you keep deciding so you don't get stuck and you don't become this version of you and you don't become a pretender. You keep integrity and honesty with yourself. Tonight, before you go to bed, ask yourself one thing, okay? And this is a good habit to have. It's even a good habit to journal. How did I show up today? What version of me lived my time, my life today? Was it the real, the idea, or expected? The real, the idea, or the expected? Try to have more time spent in the real. The idea can be stressful if that's the only real, that's the only you that you're aware of or that you feel like you can be. And then also the expected you. That's some pressure too. You'll find if you'll be the real person in all the different circumstances, you'll grow, you'll expand. You also are just a better person to be around. And my mama used to tell me this. My mother hated a liar. And she would always say, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember versions. You don't even have to remember details. The truth is the truth. You don't have to give versions. You don't have to manipulate or pretend. That's a dysfunction. So, to wrap this all up, I want you to do self awareness in real time, to not just hear what I'm saying to you, but to really exercise these things, to practice more self awareness. Ask yourself that question tonight as you lay your head on the pillow and you have those few seconds of awakeness. Who did I show up as in every circumstance in my life today? Ask yourself those questions. Ask yourself that question. And then try to spend more time in the real you, not the idea you or the expected you. Learn who you want to be. Okay? Give yourself grace for the emotions you have. They're supposed to be there. You're supposed to feel. It's not self awareness to be cold and unfeeling and unthinking. Okay? I hope you learned something today that'll make you more self aware, to help you understand what self awareness really is. It's not complicated, you guys. It's life. I'm Cheryl Carr, your work doctor. This was the Achieve with Dr. C broadcast. I hope you learned something about self awareness. It's a mirror you cannot avoid. Wherever you go, there you are. Drop me a comment if you want some more information or if anything resonated with you. I'd love to know how you're feeling, what you're thinking. And thank you. Thank you, Sharon. I appreciate your support. You've been long term since, do you realize I've been doing these broadcasts since 2020. Isn't that amazing? It's my privilege. And I haven't changed my format. I haven't chased after being some type of snazzy show. I just want to be conversational. Again, this is me. I'm just being real. Yeah, isn't it amazing? 5 years. Remember during the pandemic, I was on every week. Woo! Won't be doing that again. I got to work. So, anyway, I'm Cheryl Carr, your work doctor. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Hit me up if you need more information. I'm just an inbox away. Bye, y'all. Thank you for spending time with me this afternoon. Yay. Bye.